درس چهارم از مجموعه سوم. یکی از راه‌های مؤثر برای فراگیری زبان، آموزش بدون استفاده از زبان واسطه است. از این سطح به بعد بهتر است که از منابع انگلیسی برای آموزش خود استفاده کنید. در این درس و دروس بعدی، شما مکالمه را به زبان انگلیسی خواهید شنید. پس از آن نکات و واژگان مکالمه یاد شده توسط استاد انگلیسی زبان برای شما توضیح داده می شود. ممکن است در ابتدا این روش آموزش برایتان سخت باشد. به همین دلیل به شما توصیه می کنیم در صورت لزوم این درس را بیش از یک بار گوش دهید. در آخر هر درس، مکالمه‌ای که در ابتدای درس شنیده اید با سرعت بالاتری برای شما پخش می شود. این امر به شما کمک می کند تا مهارت‌های شنیداری خود را بهبود ببخشید.
Describing symptoms to a doctor. Describing symptoms to a doctor. Let's get started.
Good morning. I'm Dr. Von Eck. I understand that you're not feeling well?
That's right, doctor. I've had a stomachache for 3 days. The pain comes and goes, but I also have heartburn and I'm feeling bloated all the time.
Well, let's take a look. Have you felt nauseous? Does it hurt when I press here?
Oh, yes, that hurts. And I feel nauseous all the time. But, doctor, that's not all. I've also had bad headaches in the past week, and I feel fatigued all the time.
Have you had a stuffy nose, a cough, a sore throat, or an earache?
Yes, I've had all of those.
You have? All of them?
And there's more. I've been feeling pains in my leg. Sometimes it feels stiff, and sometimes I lose feeling in it. I'm having a lot of trouble walking.
I have to say that you have an unusual combination of symptoms. Have there been any significant changes in your life in the past few days?
Well, my in-laws are visiting from out of town. Do you think you'll need to admit me into the hospital for tests?
I'm not sure that's necessary. Are things really that bad at home?
You have no idea. Our podcast is entitled Describing Symptoms to a Doctor. Symptoms, S-Y-M-P-T-O-M-S, are indications or signs that there is something wrong with your body. So if your leg hurts, that's a symptom of perhaps a damaged muscle or some other problem in your leg. This podcast is about telling the doctor what your symptoms are, and we talk about some common symptoms that you might talk to a doctor about. In our dialogue, the doctor, Dr. Van Eck, comes in and says to the patient, the person who is sick, I understand that you're not feeling well. The patient, Nico, says, that's right, doctor. I've had a stomach ache for 3 days. A stomach ache, STOMACHACHE, is 2 words made one word. Stomach is where the food goes in your body when you eat. And ache means to hurt. So when you say you have a stomach ache, you mean that your stomach hurts. This poor Nico has had a stomach ache for 3 days. The pain comes and goes, but I also have heartburn, and I'm feeling bloated all the time. The expression, the pain comes and goes, means that sometimes you have pain, and then maybe a few minutes later, you don't have pain. Anything that comes and goes is present and then is not present. You have it and then you don't have it. And then you may have it again. This patient also has heartburn. Heartburn, HEARTBURN, one word, isn't really about your heart. Heartburn is a pain that you feel near your heart, above your stomach, in your chest, but it is caused by usually some problem with your eating, something that you have eaten, and you have this pain. So you can have a stomach ache, and you can also have heartburn. Nico also says he's feeling bloated all of the time. To be bloated, BLOATED, means to feel like you're full of water or perhaps food or something else, and your body feels too full, like you've eaten too much. Dr. Van Eck then asks Nico if he has felt nauseous, NAUSEOUS. To feel or to be nauseous means that your stomach is not feeling well, and you think that you may want to vomit or throw up. To vomit, VOMIT, is when food that was in your stomach goes back out your mouth. Not a very nice thing to happen for most people. Feeling nauseous is when you feel like you may very soon throw up. Dr. Van Eck says, does it hurt when I press here? And obviously she takes her hand and perhaps puts it on Nico's stomach. To press, PRESS, means to push, to use force on something, usually with your hand. There are other meanings of the word press, and if you look in today's learning guide, we talk about some additional meanings of this word. Nico says, oh yes, that hurts, meaning the place where the doctor is pressing her hand is hurting him. He says he feels nauseous all the time. But doctor, that's not all, he says. He has even more problems. He says, I've also had bad headaches in the past week, and I feel fatigued all the time. A headache, HEADACHE, is one word, like stomach ache, and it means, you can guess, that your head has some pain. I have a headache, for example, when I watch the television news and see all the terrible things going on in the world, that gives me a headache. What also gives me a headache is my neighbor and his loud noise. Well, I won't tell you about my problems. Nico's problem is that he has bad headaches, or headaches that are very severe, we might say. severe. Headaches that hurt a lot. He also feels fatigued. fatigued. To feel or to be fatigued means to feel very tired. Dr. Van Eck asks Nico about some other possible symptoms. He says, have you had a stuffy nose, a cough, a sore throat, or an earache? Let's start with the first one of these, a stuffy, S-T-U-F-F-Y, nose. A stuffy nose is when your nose has some liquid in it that makes it difficult for you to breathe using your nose. You have to use your mouth. If you have a stuffy nose, one thing that you do is you blow your nose. B-L-O-W. To blow your nose means to use air to get the liquid out of your nose. Dr. Van Eck asks if Nico has a cough. C-O-U-G-H. A cough is like this. That's a cough. A sore, S-O-R-E, throat, is when your throat hurts. It's like a throat ache, but we don't say throat ache. We say a sore throat. When you swallow, for example, your throat hurts. Your throat is what connects your mouth to your stomach. An earache, E-A-R-A-C-H-E, is, again, you can guess, a pain in your ear. So we have stomach ache, we have headache, we have earache. You can have a backache, a side ache, where the side of your body aches. All of these are ways of describing a part of your body that hurts. Nico says, yes, I've had all of those. He has all of those symptoms. Dr. Van Eck is a little surprised. She says, all of them? And Nico says, and there's more, meaning I have even more things wrong with me. I've been feeling pains in my leg. Sometimes my leg feels stiff, S-T-I-F-F. When we say your leg feels stiff, we mean it's difficult to move. It hurts when you try to move it. He also says that he's losing feeling in his legs. To lose feeling means to not be able to feel anything, to have no feeling in one part of your body. This expression, to lose feeling, has some additional meanings, which we discuss in our learning guide. Dr. Van Eck then says, I have to say that you have an unusual combination of symptoms. This expression, I have to say, is one we sometimes use when we are going to be honest with a person, but it may somehow hurt them or make them feel bad. Dr. Van Eck says, have you had any other significant changes in your life in the past few days? Nico responds, well, my in-laws are visiting from out of town. Your in-laws, I-N-L-A-W-S, are usually the parents of your husband or your wife. So the mother of your wife would be your mother-in-law, and the father of your wife would be your father-in-law. And together we would say they are your in-laws. You can also have a brother-in-law and a sister-in-law. These would be the brothers and sisters of your spouse, your husband or your wife. Of course, in-laws, especially mother-in-laws, are often associated with problems that people don't get along with or like their mother-in-law or their father-in-law. Usually it's the mother-in-law. There are a lot of jokes about this. So Nico says his in-laws are visiting from out of town, from another city. Do you think you'll need to admit me into the hospital for tests? This is a question he's asking Dr. Van Eck. To admit, A-D-M-I-T, someone, means to send someone to a hospital. This question is sort of a joke. Nico is hoping to escape his in-laws. If he goes to the hospital, he won't have to be with them. Dr. Van Eck says, I'm not sure that's necessary. Are things really that bad at home? Is your situation very bad? And Nico says, you have no idea, meaning yes, you can't even imagine. Poor Nico. Now let's listen to the dialogue, this time at a normal speed.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Van Eck. I understand that you're not feeling well?
That's right, doctor. I've had a stomach ache for 3 days. The pain comes and goes, but I also have heartburn, and I'm feeling bloated all the time.
Well, let's take a look. Have you felt nauseous? Does it hurt when I press here?
Oh, yes, that hurts. And I feel nauseous all the time. But doctor, that's not all. I've also had bad headaches in the past week, and I feel fatigued all the time.
Have you had a stuffy nose, a cough, a sore throat, or an earache?
Yes, I've had all of those.
You have? All of them?
And there's more. I've been feeling pains in my leg. Sometimes it feels stiff and sometimes I lose feeling in it. I'm having a lot of trouble walking.
I have to say that you have an unusual combination of symptoms. Have there been any significant changes in your life in the past few days?
Well, my in-laws are visiting from out of town. Do you think you'll need to admit me into the hospital for tests?
I'm not sure that's necessary. Are things really that bad at home?
You have no idea.
Hi everyone, how are you today? Hope you are doing great. I'm Sahar Walai, the English and French instructor. If you are looking forward to learning a new language, different languages, effectively and in the easiest way possible, you can go to Bamboo Languages channel. سلام به همگی، امیدوارم حالتون خوب باشه. سحر هستم، مدرس زبانهای انگلیسی و فرانسوی. اگر تا حالا موفق با شرکت در کلاس‌های زبان نشدید و میخواید زبان جدید یا چند تا زبان مختلف یاد بگیرید و براتون خیلی راحت تره تا از طریق یوتیوب این کار رو انجام بدید، حتما به کانال یوتیوب بامبو لنگویجز مراجعه کنید تا بتونید به آسون ترین شیوه و لذت بخش ترین شیوه زبانی رو که دوست دارید یاد بگیرید. زبان آلمانی، زبان انگلیسی، زبان فرانسه، ترکی استانبولی و روسی و به زودی با حمایت شما هر زبان دیگه‌ای که دوست داشته باشید. منتظرتون هستیم. از طریق لینک بالا میتونید به راحتی وارد کانال ما بشید.
Understanding addresses. This episode is about understanding addresses of houses and buildings. Let's get started.
I was away from my office and needed to send some letters to clients. Unfortunately, I didn't have their addresses, so I called the office secretary. Hi, Jacob. I need your help getting the mailing addresses for a couple of clients.
Sure. Which ones?
I need addresses for Jim Kelly and for Dr. Yumura.
Okay. Jim Kelly's address is...
I'm sorry, Jacob, but my cell phone cut out and I didn't hear you. Could you repeat the street address?
Sure, it's 1212 South Peabody Court, Lansing, Michigan, 48908.
I didn't catch the end of the address. Did you say boulevard, avenue, or street?
It's actually court, and the street number, again, is 1212.
Thanks. I've got that. Could you also spell the street name?
Sure. It's Peabody. You know what? I see a note here that he's in North Dakota until June. Let me give you that address. Mail should be sent to him in care of or to the attention of the Letty Institute, P.O. Box 345, Fargo, North Dakota, 58102.
Got it. How about an address for Dr. Yumura?
Here it is. It's 300 Goodman Building, University of Massachusetts, 234 Hitch Way, Amherst, Massachusetts.
Do you have the zip +4?
It's 01003-9272.
Oh, I just realized that I only have Dr. Yumura's last name. I want to include his first name too on the addressee line. Can you look that up for me?
I've got it right here. His first name is Brent.
Thanks a lot, Jacob. You've been a big help.
Don't mention it. This episode is called Understanding Addresses. The dialogue begins with Christina saying that she was away from her office and she needed to send some letters to clients or customers. But she didn't have their addresses, so she called her office. She says, "Hi, Jacob." Jacob works for her. He's her assistant or her secretary. "I need your help getting the mailing addresses for a couple of clients," she says. Normally we use the word address to mean the same as mailing address, the information you need to send a letter or a package to someone at their house or at their work. You can also use address for email, your email address. And so now sometimes we say mailing address to mean the physical place where you can send a letter. Jacob says sure, he can get these addresses for Christina. "Which ones?" he asks. "Which addresses do you want?" Christina asks for the address for Jim Kelly and for Dr. Yumura. Jacob says, Jim Kelly's address is, and Christina, who is obviously calling on a cell phone, says, "I'm sorry, but my cell phone cut out and I didn't hear you." When we say your cell phone or your mobile phone cuts out, we mean that it temporarily loses the sound. That happens a lot with some cell phone companies here in the United States. "Could you repeat the street address?" Christina asks. Here we see another way of using the word address. Christina asks for the street address, meaning usually just the number and name of the street. Jacob actually repeats the entire address, the complete address. He says it's 1212 South Peabody Court, Lansing, Michigan, 48908. This is one of those podcasts where it would be useful to look at the script for our podcast. If you have the learning guide, there's even more information to help you understand these addresses as we read them. Christina says, I didn't catch the end of the address. Did you say boulevard, avenue, or street? Boulevard, avenue, and street are three of the several different ways that you can name a street. All of them mean street, but sometimes we use different words depending on where they are located. Sometimes it's just whatever the city that has the streets decides to name that particular place where you drive on. The street and the use of street is the most common. For example, I live on a street. An avenue is also possible, and sometimes avenues in some cities are bigger than streets. Avenue is Avenue. You could also have something called a boulevard, Boulevard. A boulevard is usually like an avenue. It's often even wider and sometimes has trees in the middle separating the lanes. Jacob says, in responding to Christina's question, it's actually court, and the street number is 1212 or 1212. Jacob is saying that the name of the street where Jim Kelly lives is not called Boulevard, Avenue, or Street. It's called a court, C-O-U-R-T. A court is usually a street where there is very little traffic. That's sometimes how it is used. Many cities, again, use names that aren't necessarily directly related to these definitions. The word court has a couple of different meanings. Take a look at the learning guide for this episode for some additional definitions. The street number that Jacob gives Christina is just the number of the street. In almost all of the addresses in the United States, the number goes first, and then the name of the street, or boulevard, or avenue, or court, or whatever it's called. So in this case, the address is 1212. Those numbers are the street number. Notice we call it the street number, even if it's actually called a court. South Peabody Court is the name of the street in this example. Christina says, thanks, I've got that. Could you also spell the street name? Jacob says, sure, and he spells it for her. Then he says, you know what? That's a common expression. You know what? Usually it means I have something to tell you, or there's something that I need to tell you, or even I just had an idea that I would like to tell you. You've just thought of something new. So it can be used in all those different cases. Here Jacob is discovering some new information that he wants to give Christina. So he says, you know what? I see a note here that he's in North Dakota until June, meaning he is not at his regular address in the state of Michigan, but he's at a different address in the state of North Dakota, which is located in the northern central part of the United States. Michigan is also in the northern part of the United States, but it is a little more towards the east. North Dakota is next to the state of Minnesota, which, as you probably know, is the most important state in the United States. That's where I'm from. Jacob says that he will give Christina the address in North Dakota. He says mail should be sent to him in care of or to the attention of the Letty Institute, P.O. Box 345, Fargo, North Dakota, 58102. I should say that we are making these addresses up. These are not real addresses. Please don't send a letter to one of these addresses. The expression in care of is one that we use when we are mailing something to someone who is not permanently at that address. So if you are, for example, sending something to someone who is staying at a friend's house for 6 months, you would probably say the name of your friend, and then in care of, and then the name of the person where your friend is staying. We do this so that the person who delivers the mail, who goes around to each house and gives you your mail, knows that this is the right place for that letter. If they see a wrong name and the correct address, sometimes they will not deliver it. So that's why we use the in care of. You can also send something to the attention of. That means basically the same thing, except that it sometimes is used for someone who works at a particular company. So you send a letter to the company, but you want it to go to one specific person in that company. You could send it to the attention of, or simply attention. Take a look at the learning guide. It explains the differences between these, shows you what they look like on an actual letter. Christina says, got it, meaning I understand. How about an address for Dr. Yumura? And Jacob then gives the address for the doctor. He's located in Massachusetts. Christina then asks Jacob, do you have the zip +4? The zip, Z-I-P, or the zip code, they're the same thing, are the 5 numbers that we use in the United States after the name of the state in order to help the post office deliver the mail. Every area in the United States has its own zip code, and in a big city like Los Angeles, there are usually dozens, maybe 30, 40, 50 different zip codes for the different parts of the city. Zip +4 is a new system that was started, maybe 20 years ago. I'm not sure exactly the year it started. Zip +4 is when you add 4 numbers on, that gives the post office even more specific information about where you are located. Most people don't use the zip +4, but businesses will usually use it. Sometimes they can get a lower price of a stamp, that it will cost them less money if they give the post office the regular zip code, the 5 numbers, and the +4 numbers. That's usually written the 5 numbers dash or hyphen, and then the 4 numbers. Christina says that I just realized that I only have Dr. Yumura's last name. I want to include his first name, too, on the addressee line. The addressee, ADDRESSEE, SSEE, is the person to whom you are sending the letter or the package. So you have the addressee, the name of the person. You have the street address, which includes the street number and the street name. That goes on the second line. And on the third line, you put the city, comma, the state, and then the zip code, or the zip +4, if you know it. In U.S. letters, you may know that every state has a 2-letter abbreviation. So you don't normally write, for example, California, when you are sending a letter in the United States to California. You would just write capital C, capital A. Most people now know the 2-letter abbreviation for most of the states. Christina says, "Can you look that up for me?" She's asking him to look up the first name of Dr. Yamura. To look something up means to find it, usually to find information. You can look it up in a book. You can look it up on the internet, for example. Jacob gives the doctor's first name to Christina, and they end their conversation. Now let's listen to the dialogue, this time at a normal speed.
I was away from my office and needed to send some letters to clients. Unfortunately, I didn't have their addresses, so I called the office secretary. Hi, Jacob. I need your help getting the mailing addresses for a couple of clients.
Sure, which ones?
I need addresses for Jim Kelly and for Dr. Yamura.
Okay, Jim Kelly's address is...
I'm sorry, Jacob, but my cell phone cut out and I didn't hear you. Could you repeat the street address?
Sure, it's 1212 South Peabody Court, Lansing, Michigan, 48908.
I didn't catch the end of the address. Did you say Boulevard, Avenue, or Street?
It's actually Court, and the street number again is 1212.
Thanks, I've got that. Could you also spell the street name?
Sure, it's Peabody. You know what? I see a note here that he's in North Dakota until June. Let me give you that address. Mail should be sent to him in care of or to the attention of the Letty Institute, P.O. Box 345, Fargo, North Dakota, 58102.
Got it. How about an address for Dr. Yamura?
Here it is. It's 300 Goodman Building, University of Massachusetts, 234 Hitch Way, Amherst, Massachusetts.
Do you have the zip +4?
It's 01003-9272.
Oh, I just realized that I only have Dr. Yamura's last name. I want to include his first name, too, on the addressee line. Can you look that up for me?
I've got it right here. His first name is Brent.
Thanks a lot, Jacob. You've been a big help.
Don't mention it.
در صورتی که به 80% مطالب درس تسلط دارید، فردا می توانید درس بعدی را شروع کنید. در غیر این صورت لازم است که این درس را تکرار کنید. توجه داشته باشید که شما تنها باید یک درس را در هر روز انجام دهید.